That 15-second video you just posted of your grandkid laughing at the dog is the only tool a stranger needs to steal her voice, call you in a panic, and drain $38,000 from your retirement account before you hang up the phone. In 2024, elder fraud losses hit $4.89 billion, and the weapon of choice isn't a gun or a virus. It's 3 seconds of audio, an $11 AI tool, and a story so urgent it bypasses every rational instinct you have. But the tell that reveals every single one of these calls is something no algorithm can fake. This is the Grandparent scam upgraded with artificial intelligence. In the time it takes you to scroll past a video of your grandson scoring a goal, a stranger can capture his voice, clone it for $11, and use it to call you crying for bail money. Losses climbed 43% in a single year, and the technology is already in every app store. The question is not whether that call will come. The question is whether you will know it is a lie before you say his name. To answer that question, you have to understand something the scammers know about you that you do not know about yourself. Because the weapon they are using is not the voice clone. The voice clone is just the key that turns the lock. The lock is inside your own brain, and it was installed the day your first grandchild was born. The technology arrived quietly. In 2023, a company called 11 Labs released a voice synthesis tool so powerful it could clone any voice from a 30-second sample. Pitch, tone, accent, emotional inflection, every tremble of fear, every crack of desperation. What once required a Hollywood soundstage now ran on a smartphone and cost a few dollars per generation. Within weeks, the tool was in the hands of scammers operating call centers in South Asia, West Africa, and parts of Eastern Europe. They did not need to steal your grandchild's phone. They only needed his TikTok, her graduation speech on Facebook, the video you posted last Christmas of her laughing at the dog. 30 seconds of audio was enough. 3 seconds, according to McAfee's cybersecurity division, could now be stretched into a full sentence with 85% accuracy. And the scammers did not even need to be technical. The tool did the work. A cloned voice, a burner phone, and a script that read like a bad dream. Here is how that script plays out. Your phone rings at 10 at night. The voice on the other end is your grandson. He is crying. He says he was in a car accident. He broke his nose. That is why he sounds a little strange. He needs bail money right now, before the arraignment in the morning, and please, Grandma, do not tell Mom because she will only get angry, and he is already so ashamed. He hands the phone to a man who identifies himself as a public defender, a smooth voice with the cadence of a professional. The man gives you wiring instructions. You hear your grandson sobbing in the background. Everything in you screams to help. That is the scene that played out in Philadelphia last March, when an 86-year-old retired teacher wired $6,000 to a bank account she believed would free her grandson from a jail cell in Florida. She found out the next morning that her real grandson had been asleep in his dorm room at Temple University the entire night. The voice she had heard crying and begging had been stitched together from clips he posted on Instagram during spring break. But here's the part that should stop you cold. Even after she learned the truth, she told police that part of her brain still believed it was him. The memory of his voice was so real that her logic could not erase it. Neuroscientists call this the primacy of emotional memory. When the brain encounters a stimulus that matches a deep attachment, rational doubt gets shut out. The sound of your grandchild in distress hits the amygdala before it reaches the prefrontal cortex. You act before you think. This is the law of emergency, and the scammers have built an entire industry around it. They pull audio from social media platforms that make over $1 billion a year, selling access to your family videos. They use payment rails like wire transfers and cryptocurrency kiosks that offer zero fraud protection. They operate from jurisdictions where extradition for financial crime is nearly impossible, and they target the wealthiest generation in American history. Americans over 60 hold twice the net worth of every generation combined under the age of 40. That is trillions of dollars of retirement savings, home equity, and investment accounts guarded only by a phone number and a voice that sounds exactly like the one you love. Now, The scammers are about to make one mistake that exposes every single one of these calls. And it is not a mechanical tell. It is something so human, so predictable, that once you see it, you will never unhear it. But I have to warn you, understanding it means confronting a pattern the scammers planted in your head long before they ever dialed your number. The scammers make one mistake every single time. They never tell you who is calling. They never say your name. They never say your grandchild's name. They wait for you to say it. The call starts with a pause, then a voice, "Grandma." They wait. They need you to fill the silence with a name. "Is that you, David?" And in that single sentence, you have just handed them everything they need to convince you that the crying voice on the other end is your grandson. That is the pattern. That is the tell. And it is so simple that victims walk right past it every hour of every day. Susan learned this the hard way. 71 years old, retired nurse, grandmother of 4. Last fall, her phone rang at 2 in the afternoon. The voice on the other end sounded just like her grandson, Jacob. He was frantic. He had rear-ended a pregnant woman in a Walmart parking lot. He was in a holding cell, and he needed bail money immediately. The public defender took over the line and gave her wiring instructions. Susan drove to her bank with $9,500. The teller asked a question the scam had not prepared her for. "Have you actually spoken to Jacob directly? Not the person who called you, but Jacob on his own cell phone?" Susan paused. She had not. The teller handed her the bank phone and said, "Call him now." The real Jacob answered on the second ring, bored, playing a video game in his apartment. He had not been in a car accident. He had never heard of the public defender. Susan nearly lost a year's worth of living expenses because she said Jacob before the scammer did. That teller saved Susan, but most victims are not that lucky. According to the FBI, reported losses from grandparent scams surpassed $5 million in 2025. But the true number is far darker. The Federal Trade Commission estimates that only 1 in 24 elder fraud cases is ever reported. When they account for silence, for shame, for the terror of looking vulnerable, the real cost of elder fraud last year landed somewhere between $10 billion and $81 billion. The median loss per victim among Americans over 60 was $38,500. That is not pocket change. That is a lifetime of careful saving erased in a single afternoon because a voice on the phone sounded exactly right. And the tech companies know it. Social media platforms make billions selling ad space next to the very videos that feed the cloning tools. Phone carriers profit from every spoofed number that rings your landline. Cryptocurrency, kiosks, and wire transfer services charge fees on every transaction, fraudulent or not. No one in the chain has any incentive to stop it. The scammers know this. They run their operations like multinational corporations, complete with scripts, call metrics, and a deep psychological profile of exactly what makes you pick up the phone and empty your bank account. There is a second mistake embedded in every one of these calls, and once you hear it, you will never fall for it again. The voice gives you a reason. It sounds strange. A broken nose from the accident. A bad cell connection. A cold. The excuse is always delivered early, before you have time to question it. That is a confession. A real voice in real distress does not apologize for how it sounds. It just sounds that way. The excuse is there to cover the tiny mechanical artifacts the AI leaves behind. It is a patch, and patches reveal the hole they are trying to hide. But arguing with the voice misses the point. The scammers do not need to win a forensic argument. They only need to keep you on the line long enough for your fear to overpower your reason. And they have studied exactly how many seconds that takes. 11 seconds. That is the window. From the moment the voice says, "Grandma," to the moment your amygdala hijacks your prefrontal cortex and turns off every suspicion you have carefully built over 70 years of life. The scammers know this number because they have tested it across hundreds of thousands of calls, refining their scripts in real time, tracking drop-off rates, conversion rates, and the exact inflection that makes you say the name they need. They are not guessing. They are running a business with performance metrics, a sales funnel, and a customer service department that deals with confused elderly people who call back after realizing the money is gone. The raw material for that business is free. Your grandchild posts a video of a spring break trip, a birthday speech, a clip of a band concert. The audio is captured, cleaned, and fed into a cloning engine that costs less than a streaming subscription. Within minutes, a voice model is ready. The scammer then purchases a calling list from a data broker. For $200, you can buy 5,000 phone numbers of American seniors in a specific zip code, sorted by estimated net worth, with names of family members attached. Those lists come from public records, warranty cards, loyalty programs, and the kind of data leaks that happen so often nobody pays attention anymore. The scammer cross-references the names with social media, finds the grandkids, harvests the voice, and dials. This is not a lone criminal in a basement. This is an industry. Call centers in Kolkata, Accra, and Bucharest run shifts around the clock, working America's time zones. Morning shift targets the East Coast. Swing shift hits the Midwest. Night shift covers California. The script is laminated, pinned above each station, and updated weekly based on what worked last week. Version 4.2 introduced the broken nose excuse. Version 5.1 added the crying in the background file, played by a second operator. Version 6 is currently being tested, and it no longer requires a voice call at all. It places a video call, and the person on the screen is your grandchild. The deep fake works in real time, synced to the cloned voice, and the caller asks for bail money while looking exactly like the face you have known since he was born. A finance worker in Hong Kong saw this in early 2024 when he attended a video conference with a deepfaked chief financial officer and several deepfaked colleagues and authorized a $25 million wire transfer. A grandmother in Toronto saw it 6 months later when her grandson's face and voice appeared on her iPad begging for $9,000 because he had been arrested in Mexico. The money left her account in 12 minutes. Her real grandson was eating breakfast in Vancouver. The money trail is a ghost. The victim wires funds to a domestic intermediary account, often a money mule recruited through a fake work-from-home job. The mule converts the cash to cryptocurrency, usually Bitcoin or Tether, and transfers it to a wallet controlled by the scam operation. From there, it disappears into a mixer and emerges clean in a jurisdiction that does not cooperate with American law enforcement. Recovery rates for these transfers are statistically zero. Banks have no obligation to reverse authorized wire transfers. Cryptocurrency exchanges operate with limited identity verification. The entire financial plumbing is built for the scammer's convenience. But the worst number is not the money lost. The worst number is the silence. The FTC estimates that fewer than 4% of elder fraud victims ever file a report. The rest stay quiet because they are ashamed, because they believe it was their fault for not recognizing the lie, because they do not want their children to think they cannot handle their own finances anymore, because the scam was so emotionally violent that reliving it to a police officer feels like being scammed a second time. This silence is the oxygen the industry breathes. Without it, patterns would be visible. Numbers would trigger alarms. Families would have the conversation before the call ever comes. And that is exactly what the scammers do not want you to have. That conversation is the one weapon they cannot defeat. It is simpler than any technology, older than any code, and it does not require you to understand how AI works. It only requires you to say 5 words before you open your wallet. And when you hear what those 5 words are, you will understand why the scammers have spent so much effort, making sure you never say them. Those 5 words are not a password you invent under pressure. They are the simplest sentence you already know. I will call you back. That is the weapon. Not a safe word. Not a secret handshake. 5 words that kill every version of this scam before the money leaves your account. Because the scammer cannot call you back from your grandson's real number. They can spoof it on your caller ID, but they cannot make his phone ring. So you hang up. You do not ask for a case number. You do not let the public defender keep you on the line for one more second. You hang up and you dial the number you have had in your contacts for years. Not the number that called you, not the number the voice gave you, the real one. The one where your grandson answers bored, a video game paused in the background, unharmed, completely unaware that his voice was stolen 3 minutes ago. That is the verify by callback rule. It takes 10 seconds. It costs nothing, and it has never failed a single human being who used it. Now, build a second layer, because the deep fake video calls are already in the wild, and soon the face on your screen will match the voice. That layer is a family's safe word, not the name of a pet that lives on your Facebook page, not a birthday, something only the family knows and never posts online. What did we name the goldfish that died in the hurricane? Which cousin spilled the gravy at Thanksgiving in 2016? A question a scammer's script cannot answer. Pick it tonight. Put it in a group text. Every grandchild, every aunt, every nephew. If the person on the line cannot answer that question, the voice does not matter. Hang up. But what if the money already left? What if you are listening to this and remembering a call from last week? A wire transfer you already sent, a voice you already believed. Do not sit in silence. The silence is what funds the next call to someone else's grandmother. Pick up your phone and call your bank immediately. Tell them the transfer was fraudulent. Ask for a wire recall. Banks can sometimes reverse a transaction if you act within hours. Then go to ic3.gov. That is the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. File a report. The number is $0. Then call your local police non-emergency line and file a second report. These reports are not about recovering your money. The odds of that are low. They are about breaking the silence that lets the industry grow. Every report teaches law enforcement how the scam is evolving. Every report makes the next target a little harder to hit. Here is the surprising detail. The scammers already know everything I just told you. They know the callback rule exists. They know families are starting to use safe words. Their response is not to find a better scam. It is simply to wait for you to forget. To call at 2 in the morning when you are disoriented. To call during a family crisis when your guard is down. To call your husband instead of you because he is less likely to have seen this video. The battle is not against the technology. It is against your own exhaustion in the moment it matters most. And that means the only protection that actually works is a conversation before the phone ever rings. No tool, no app, no government agency can have that conversation for you. But I can give you the words to start it. Those words are in the checklist linked below this video. Print it. Put it on your fridge. Text the safe word to your family group tonight. Not after the next video. Not when it feels pressing. Because the next call is already being prepared. The scammer already has your number. Your grandkid's voice is already sitting in a server, harvested from last summer's vacation clip, waiting for the moment you are tired or distracted enough to hand over the name they need. The only variable left is whether you have the conversation before the phone rings or after the money disappears. This is not going away. The same artificial intelligence that cloned a voice this year will clone a face next year. And the year after that, it will clone an entire video call so seamless, you will swear you saw your own grandson crying on the screen. The technology will sprint forward, but the weapon will remain the same. A voice that sounds exactly right, and a silence that lets it win. If this video gave you something worth holding onto, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your parents, your neighbor who lives alone, the woman at church who still uses a landline. And if you are the kind of person who wants to stay ahead of what is coming before it arrives at your door, I put something together for you. It is waiting in the first pinned comment. Hit subscribe, not for the algorithm, for the next time you need to know something the scammers hoped you would never learn. Stay sharp.